Can a reincarnated sorcerer transform into their true form whenever they want, or do they need to regain all of their power? This is a great question from Captain Frost, so let's talk about it, but manga spoilers beware. Alright, first, just a little refresher on what exactly is happening here. So, incarnated sorcerers are sorcerers that have cheated death by becoming cursed objects and then later reincarnate in host bodies to basically live again, Similar to how Sukuna does the same thing in Yuji's body. But in this case, this is on a more permanent basis. Not all the time, though. But here we have an example with Kashimo, right? He is a sorcerer from the Edo period that made a deal with Kenjaku to become a cursed object, and then later he is resurrected essentially in the modern era, right? This is what Kashimo looked like back in his time. So the body he took over in the modern era didn't look like this. But sorcerers that are incarnated in this way have a one-time use ability to transform into their true visage. And most of the information we have on how this process works comes from these two panels where Sukuna is finally transforming into his Heian era form. And basically what we learn is that every incarnated sorcerer gets a one-time transformation in this way to go from their host body to their true form. And doing so will heal them physically, but we do know it doesn't heal their brain. So of the incarnated sorcerers that we've met in JJK, presumably most of them have already used this transformation and did so probably pretty quickly after incarnating to become their true selves, like these three here. Now, why didn't they wait like Sukuna to use it as like a heal when they most needed it? Maybe they didn't think about that, maybe they didn't know it healed them in that way, or maybe they're just not that strategic like Sukuna, right? But we do have some characters that are incarnated sorcerers that don't use this transformation, and Hannah is an example, Hannah/Angel. Angel, we know, didn't want to fully take over Hannah because she views incarnated sorcerers as an abomination in this way. So she chooses to live in harmony with Hannah and never used their transformation. So we technically don't know what Angel looks like. We have another unique case with the transformation as well when it comes to Yorozu, who is an incarnated sorcerer in Megumi's sister Tsumiki's body. We know that Yorozu didn't fully transform into her true form, but she just changed it a little bit, mostly changed her face and her hair, or at least her hairstyle, but kept the body for the most part. Now, why did she do this? Did it have something to do with Sukuna's specific plans for Tsumiki, and he and Yorozu talked about that? I don't know, but for the most part, she only sort of transformed. Now, for the second part of Captain Frost's question on do you need to have your full power in order to enact that transformation, we don't know, but I would guess probably not. And the interesting thing here is that Sukuna is the only sorcerer that we're aware of that had his soul split into 20 pieces, For all of the other incarnated sorcerers, they were just one singular cursed object. So it didn't really exist for them to have to go find multiple pieces of themselves to then transform, right? They were already fully powered up as soon as they incarnated. So they didn't even have that choice, right? They just chose when to transform, and it wasn't based on attaining power. Sukuna, however, we know that he did have 20 fingers, right? But we know that he transformed without eating the 20th finger. So in a way, you could consider him not at full power, but maybe he was because we know he ate the mummified head of his old corpse, which he said more than made up for the final finger. So maybe he technically was at full power as far as that was concerned, but there is technically still a finger out there. So maybe he's not full power, and yet he transformed. So for my money, I think an incarnated sorcerer could transform whenever they want, including Sukuna. So maybe even at one finger he could have transformed, but then that opens up a whole can of worms as far as, well, like what if another human ate another one of his fingers? Could he then transform in that body too? And there could be two Heian era sorcerers running around. I don't know. This is something that's never going to come up in the story at this point. But I think you could just choose to incarnate whenever you want. And one of the reasons Sukuna never did it before the moment he did in the story is, one, he was in Yuji's body for 99% of that time, right? And Yuji is a prison for him. So if he transformed into his true form in Yuji's body, Yuji is ultimately going to take back over, right? And so he probably didn't want Yuji to have access to his real body, or at least he just didn't want to use his one transformation when he wasn't in a body that he planned on keeping, if that makes sense. So a lot of yapping there, but hopefully that made sense. Thank you again for the question. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.